So the AFC East, and the AFC East is a pretty interesting division in my personal opinion, Kelly. I told you whenever we were doing our power rankings, I think this Dolphins team is pretty legit. I think that this Dolphins team, certainly when you kind of look at everything that is around, one of the deals I think that people don't really take into account very well in all of this is just how good Tua played and has played.
Yeah,
and
yes. That seemingly gets forgotten too easily. I don't get it.
Like when he's out on the field, I don't really get it. You know, I mean, you take a look, they were 9-8 last year, and Tua, they start out 3-0, right? They start out 3-0, and then Tua gets a concussion, they lose 3 games in a row. So Tua's not out there, gets a concussion, lose 3 games in a row. He comes back in week 7, they rattle off 5 in a row when he's playing, right? Now, they do go on a 3-game skid, but I don't think it's anything you're going to hang your head about. Those losses were to the 49ers, they were to the Chargers, and they were to the Bills, right? I mean, those are all 3 really good teams, and so you do lose those games. Then if you remember, Tua is sitting there playing on Christmas Day against the Packers and scores 20-10. There's about 2.5 minutes left in the first half. At this point, again, they're up 10 points. At this point, Tua is 9 of 12 for 229 yards in that game. He gets hit. For whatever reason, me, you, your blind dog, your grandmother, everyone saw that he got concussed yet again. And for whatever reason, no one on the sidelines saw that he got concussed and trotted him back out there. The rest of the game, he throws for 81 yards and 3 interceptions. And, oh, by the way, we find out after the game, yeah, he actually was concussed and he doesn't play another game the rest of the season. So when he was actually out on the field, this team was really good, and they won a bunch of games, and Tua played really well, just not getting the credit that he deserved at all. Now you bring in Vic Fangio to be the defensive coordinator for this squad as well. I think that this is something that's kind of gone under the radar. Now, no matter what you think about Vic Fangio as a head coach or not, there are some of these guys that just don't really cut it as head coaches, but as coordinators, they are just absolutely fantastic. And Vic Fangio, you can ask anybody in the NFL circles, is known as one of the defensive masterminds of the last couple of decades. I mean, Vic Fangio and defense just go synonymous in the NFL. So I think this Dolphins team is pretty good. They trade for Jalen Ramsey. Of course, he's dealing with some injuries and stuff right now, but like you bring in some other guys, David Long, a linebacker, he's going to start. He's a really, really good player. You bring in Braxton Berrios to kind of run the slot stuff for you. Eli Apple, see if there's anything left in the tank with him. You bring in Mike White as a backup, so you're not throwing out Teddy Two Gloves whenever you're going out there, or Skylar Thompson, so you do have him as well. I don't know, Kelly. Maybe I'm a little too high on this team because I guess there is still always injury risk, but there's injury risk with any player, with any quarterback in the NFL, so I can't go into a season going, yeah, but he's going to get concussed again. I just have to assume, health and yeah, maybe weigh it just a little bit that there is a history there for Tua, but man, I really do like what they put on paper here.
Yeah, no, me too. This is, we were talking about it during the break after we did our power rankings and kind of batting around, hey, there's probably a couple teams that, maybe we would have switched around a little bit near the tail end, but the Dolphins, I didn't have them in my top 10, but they're squarely number 11 for me, if not belonging in that top 10. Agree with everything you just said. I think the Jalen Ramsey injury is it's a big disappointment because I think I know there were some people saying they didn't think it was that big of an addition for him. I really do think that would have been a big addition for the Dolphins. We'll see when he comes back. But I love what this team does offensively. It's just the defense is going to have to pick things up. And like you said, how big of a difference can Vic Fangio make? How big of a difference can some of these additions make? I think the ceiling's really high for this team, though. Just stuck in a very, very tough division, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Bills. Of course, the Bills in the division. Sean McDermott is going to actually call plays on the defensive side of the ball. If you guys didn't follow this in the offseason, Leslie Frazier is going to take the season off. They're saying he's going to come back next year, whatever. But Sean McDermott chose to not replace him with someone temporary, and Sean McDermott is going to take on, calling defensive plays. How does that affect that? Whenever he's having to kind of split duties there, they enter the season with the second toughest schedule in all of the league. Now, they did get a couple of big pickups to go along with some of their losses. Look, you lose Tremaine Edmonds, you lose Roger Saffold, you lose, Devin Singletary, Isaiah McKenzie, Jamison Crowder. There were some losses, but they did get Connor McGovern, one of the best right tackles in the NFL. You bring in Leonard Floyd as well as an edge rusher. Those are really, really good pickups for this Bills team. And, you kind of look Kelly, the real question that I have, though, is the offensive line for the Bills. And I understand you have a mobile quarterback in Josh Allen, but you're heading into this with, at least Pro Football Focus thinks that the 22nd best offensive line as we head into the season. And for a team that relies so heavily on early down success, they were the second highest in early down success rate last year in the NFL. If Josh Allen is not being able to run the offense properly and not being able to get those yards on first and second down, I mean, can they be as efficient moving forward? I just think that there are some questions. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Yeah. The wide receiver 2 position wasn't necessarily addressed, where I thought that could have been something they could have upgraded to. And so I don't know, man. I think they're going to be really good. You have Josh Allen. You're going to be really good. But I don't know if they're I don't know if the ceiling is Super Bowl, actually, for the Bills.
Yeah, I think they take maybe a slight step back this year. I think we've maybe seen the extent of what this current kind of Bills roster can do. It's just it's so reliant on Josh Allen, right? Like, I mean, we're talking about the Dolphins before and Tua, and everybody having these injury concerns with Tua before. Okay, I get it. He's got the track record. There's a track record there with Josh Allen too, and there's almost no quarterback in the NFL that's more exposed to hits than Josh Allen because of how much they utilize him in the running game. So, and then you talk about a porous offensive line. This guy's going to be taking off even more probably. So, yeah. It's a lot of the reasons like that. I don't know if
I'm not willing to bet the win total. I think 10.5 is like dead on, right?
Yeah,
and I think it is 10-7, 11-6, like that. To me, I'm not willing to pull the trigger on that. I think the number is dead on right there, and that's kind of how I see the outcome of this team.
Yeah. So, do you have any bets in this division? Because I think this division is a little tough and confusing for me. This is where one I stayed away from. If anything, I'd be looking towards Dolphins bets, but I didn't get on board with it.
No, it's actually I think it might be one of the only ones where I don't have a single bet with anything, be it a player prop, be it anything like any of that stuff, right? I kind of want to fade the Jets, but I can't quite get there. Look, 7-10 last season. They bring in Nathaniel Hackett as offensive coordinator. You can say what you want to about him being a head coach at Denver, but he's had success with Aaron Rodgers before on the offensive side of the ball, so I'm not going to discredit what you get there. Of course, they signed Dalvin Cook as well. That can only help. Adrian Amos at safety, Chuck Clark at safety, Quentin Jefferson and Al Woods on the defensive line. So, I mean, listen, there are a lot of guys that they brought in. Whatever's left of Mecole Hardman, you got him. Of course, the two guys that played with Aaron in Green Bay and Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb, those guys are all there. So you lose Sheldon Rankins, you lose George Fant. That's not great. But, I mean, all in all, it was a lot more additions than subtractions for this team. Kelly, the only thing that I think is definitely going to be sticky here in this, and this is something I guess you could look at from not only just a total perspective with this team, but also from a player perspective and all that. And we'll get to these markets a little bit later in the show. But if you take a look, in 2020, offensive coordinator for the Packers was Nathaniel Hackett. He's now the offensive coordinator for the Jets. They were the dead last in pace situation neutral in the NFL. 2021, they were 31st in situation neutral pace. Nathaniel Hackett leaves. Even last year, the Packers were 28th in situation neutral pace. Aaron Rodgers just doesn't run a fast out. He's a very deliberate quarterback. He gets up to the line. He reads the defenses. He's calling audibles. He's doing all that stuff. So you got to be pretty efficient if you're going to hit some of these targets when it comes to, numbers from a passing perspective, even a receiving perspective for some of the receivers and things like that. Because if you are running far fewer plays per game than your opponent, it's just far fewer opportunities as well for things like that to happen. So again, just something for us to keep in mind as we continue to handicap. Kelly, we were in a really good discussion actually about the AFC East. So I kind of want to continue on with all that. And I don't want to cut short the Jets either, because it was a team that did make the top 10 in your power ratings, didn't in mine. And I said, if there's any team in this division that maybe I was looking to fade, it might be them. And maybe it's just because of the hype that's coming with all of this. Now, one thing that cannot be denied about this team is this defense is really, really good. And probably it might even has a chance to be better this year than it was last year. Yeah. The offense is certainly going to be better. And I think from a bull case scenario with this team, I mean, you could look and say, the offense scored the fourth fewest points in all of the NFL last year, while the defense allowed the fourth fewest points in all the NFL, and they still lost 10 games, right? I mean, so it's kind of like, okay, if this defense continues on, which, again, there shouldn't be any reason that they wouldn't at least be a top 10 unit, if not a top 5 unit, and certainly could be battling for the best defense in all of the NFL when it's all said and done. If that's the case, you have to think instant upgrade Aaron Rodgers, instant upgrade he brings in his own personal offensive coordinator, and instant upgrade because He brings along a couple of familiar faces with him at wide receiver in Lazard, in Cobb, and then, of course, year 2 of Garrett Wilson. So there is upside here for this Jets team. I'm not discrediting that at all, Kelly. I think it's just, for me, the division they play in. I think it's more that I really like the Bills still, what they bring to the table, and I'm just higher on the Dolphins, I think, than most, which would naturally, someone has to be down, like someone has to come down in all of that if I'm going to be so high on the Dolphins, and that would be the Jets then.
Yeah, and that's, I think as far as me being pretty high on the Jets this year, it really comes down to what you brought up. Look, the offense, whatever, for a second, right? You're still talking about a top defense in the league to me, and you're going to bring that back this year, and I fully expect them to be a top 5 defense in the league. Now the question is, okay, we know you've upgraded it on offense. How big of an upgrade is that, right? How far can Aaron Rodgers and these new pieces take you? And that's the bigger question mark to me, Matt. But we know it's a massive upgrade from what they were doing last year. So yes, I expect this team to be extremely competitive. I did lie last segment, though. I didn't say I had a bet in this division because of like you. I've been high on the Bills the past couple years. Do I think that they are? Maybe this year going to take a slight step back? Yeah, but that's very slight. I think it's going to be very slight as long as Josh Allen is healthy. That team's going to be right there. Dolphins, I think, have potential to have a great year. I think they have the potential to win this division, absolutely. And I think this Jets team is really solid. So what bet did that lead me to? Is an under on the Patriots win total, who I think it's one of those. I think it's the disparity in the conferences, Matt, where if the Patriots were in the NFC, oh, okay, you might be talking about a solid playoff team this year, but you're dealing with this kind of division, the kind of schedule that they're handed, partially because of the division that they're in. I think the Patriots are going to have a brutal, brutal season.
Yeah, it's a deal where you look, Patriots were 8-9 last year, and it was kind of I think it was fairly, let's just say, a fairly mediocre performance from Mac Jones. I mean, I think got a little bit of a raw deal. Everyone was pointing and just saying that it was definitely him, the reason why they were losing all these games. He had no talent around him, too. Right, I mean, there's another thing that goes along with all that. I mean, it's very hard to play quarterback if you don't have anyone with any talent to throw to. So there was that. I mean, and listen, I'm not a Mac Jones guy. I'm not a Patriots guy at all. But I think, to be fair, we have to say, there was very little talent around the dude. And so now you bring in Juju Smith-Schuster. We're going to find out, is there anything left in the tank, or was this just a product of playing with Patrick Mahomes, right? I mean, was he resurrected because he's playing with what could end up being the greatest quarterback of all time? And so that is the question that'll be answered at least a little bit this year with all that. They also bring in Mike Gesicki. That is a pretty interesting signing as well, because if you listen to what some of these beat writers are saying, they're kind of lining Gesicki up as a slot guy. So it would be more of a really big kind of mismatch dude there in the slot, and that's kind of how they're tackling, putting him out there. They bring in Riley Reif, who obviously is a very, very good tackle. So, I mean, they did bring in some dudes that can certainly help out this team. And, of course, they drafted Christian Gonzalez in the first round as well. That's on the defensive side of the ball, so that's an upgrade. 2, offensive coordinator was a very big hot topic last year amongst, what was going on there in New England. They have cleared all of that up. Bill O'Brien comes in as offensive coordinator, fresh off of his Nick Saban rehabilitation program that he got down there in Alabama, which, again, all you have to do is you go serve 2 years. You go serve 2 years as coordinator under Nick Saban. Your sins are washed clean, and you can go get a new job anywhere in the NFL, and that's Bill O'Brien. So he's going to be the offensive coordinator there for this Patriots team, which you have to assume is just an upgrade anyway, because whatever was going on with Matt Patricia last year was just a disaster with all that. That all being said, everything that you said also applies to me. Do I think the team's going to be terrible? I don't think they're going to be terrible. I don't think they're going to be terrible. But when you're in a division that I think so highly of the top 2 teams, I think the Jets are going to be perfectly fine. And certainly with that defense, they're going to be in every game, right? They're not going to be – Aaron Rodgers not going to be looking up at too many double-digit deficits, right? I mean, it's just not going to happen. And so by process of elimination – one of these teams has to be looked at as kind of by far the most inferior team, and that to me has to be the Patriots. And again, it's not that I think they're going to be absolutely terrible. It's just you play 6 games against 3 teams that I have a lot of respect for.
Yeah, and I mean we're going to talk two divisions today. Well, if we get to the AFC North, but there's kind of a similar case in both divisions where it's like you said. I don't know that I think the Patriots are going to be terrible. I think they probably got a little bit better from a year ago. But that division is it's brutal. It is going to be so tough to really ask them to do all that much this season.
Yeah, and you look at the schedule, right? This is one of those things where I would not bet a win total on the Patriots until about week 5. And then maybe we look from there because they start out Eagles, Dolphins, Jets, Cowboys. There is a world that exists, Kelly, where they come out 0-4. Yep. And like you're staring down then that game in week 5 of the Saints. And this win total has come down at least a full game, if not 2 full games. It does lighten up. From there, though, you go Saints, Raiders. There is a game against Bills and Dolphins there, but then you get Commanders, Colts, and then you come out of the bite of the Giants. Like it does at least lighten up a little bit from there. I would not be betting this win total before the first 4 games of the year because I think more times than not, we're going to be looking at an 0-4 team, and you're going to be getting a better number anyway on this team. And hey, after you've watched those first 4 games, maybe you're not bullish on this team anyway to bet the over. Like maybe you've thought better of yourself and you're not going to be wanting to bet the over on this win total as it is anyway. So something I would certainly kind of pump the brakes on. And if you do still feel really good about them after the 4 games, again, they head into the Saints, Raiders, games with Commanders and Colts in there as well. So maybe that could be a situation to jump in live.
Yeah, if you're looking at key word there, if you're looking at the over. If you like the under, get in now.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, like I already have.
Yes. If you like the under for sure, because look, the schedule's just it lightens up a little bit there when we were talking about it, but then even on the back end, it goes Chargers, Steelers, Chiefs, and for me, again, you and I are both think this Chargers team, at least on paper, could be really, really good. I think the Steelers are going to be better than most people think. I actually kind of dig what they've got going on there. Are the Broncos any good? We'll find out as Russ Wilson cooked. We'll figure that out. But then it goes Bills, Jets. I mean, it's just a monster of a schedule to try to overcome as well. That's the problem.
Yep, it is. Yeah, toughest in the NFL by win total, right?
So let's look at most passing yards for the AFC East, which is pretty interesting because you take a look and I already brought up a couple of different things. And I think that Josh Allen being your favorite at minus 130 makes a lot of sense. Aaron Rodgers plus 250, Tua at plus 350, and Mac Jones at 16-1. Kelly, for me, I am all over Tua in this market. I understand, again, you're taking up a bunch of risk, and I get all of that, but he has a 1A, 1B type scenario from a wide receiver standpoint. We already talked about the fact that Aaron Rodgers operates at a snail pace and has done so for the last 3 seasons. It would be, in my opinion, crazy to think that it's going to change. Oh, by the way, you just signed Dalvin Cook as it is too, so you're going to not utilize him? You're going to not use him in the run game? Of course you are. So I think Mac Jones is obviously off the table here when it comes to all that. And then so basically a head-to-head between Josh Allen and Tua Tagovailoa. And I think that the Bills are likely to run the ball a little bit more than the Dolphins are. And I honestly think that Tua, whenever you come down to it, if he can stay healthy, I think he would be the favorite in this market anyway. I think this is baked in that you're assuming that Tua is going to miss several games throughout the course of this season. If that's true, then so be it. But I'd take the plus 350 on Tua as opposed to laying $1.30 on Josh Allen.
Yeah, something you would bet if it was available to us. Because I actually thought that price was kind of was pretty attractive.
It would be something I think it would be interesting putting a little steak dinner money on, something like that. Like nothing huge because again there is an inherent risk with how quick are they going to be to pull the trigger right onto it? That's the other thing, right? Like, even if he doesn't have a concussion, does he take a big hit and then he just moves on, right? I mean, that's the other thing that we kind of have to deal with all this with Tua Tagovailoa. They take the good with the bad.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.